Welcome, everybody, to my Adhack workshop. It's really great to have you here. I hope people have had a chance to read the description beforehand and have maybe come prepared with some materials. But if not, that's okay. A quick rundown of what you would need, which you probably already have lying around the house, is basically any ephemera with advertisements in it, magazines, newspapers, flyers you've got in the mail, a cereal box if you want it, and then paint, markers, Sharpies, which I guess count as markers, pens, really anything that you can use to scribble over the ads. So if you don't have that yet, that's okay, because I'm going to do a quick presentation on what this whole project is about with my own personal work. And then we'll all get started on what's just going to be like a very chill workshop where we're going to be making our own artwork together. And then hopefully we'll have a conversation about advertisements and how those affect us on like a conscious or even subconscious level. And it's going to be very chill and relaxed. And we're going to have a nice time making art together. So a quick little bit about me and what I've been doing. I have this whole painting series. It's called my Adhack series, and for this I basically paint creatures over top of products and models in advertisements, which I will do a little slideshow of, which I had so organized, and now there we go. So this is an example of a painting that I did. It's an ad that I tore right out of a magazine. So in case it wasn't obvious from my description, if you read my description or even what I've said so far, not a big fan of advertisements. I don't like how ubiquitous they are and have become, especially as we get more digital. They're just in our spaces all of the time. There's no really separating ourselves from them. And I think a lot about how they affect us, usually in a negative way, because really what they're trying to do is manipulate us into wanting things we don't necessarily need, things we might not have necessarily wanted, and preying on a lot of our insecurities to basically get us to buy these products. I also worry in general about consumer culture and the toll that it might be taking on our environment, how it's become this huge, globally unsustainable thing. But I don't really have any control over that at the end of the day. I do have control over these ads and how I can respond to them and how I can change their narratives from something that's a little bit insidious to something that's a bit absurd, a little bit grotesque, very whimsical, very funny, and really just try to create a new narrative for the messages that the ads are trying to convey to us. I've been doing this project for over 10 years now. I would say I've painted on over 400 ads in various silly capacities. And I guess my goal is with showing these and with encouraging people to make their own is so that when we all see advertisements, even the ones that haven't been edited by me or by you or by whoever, we still kind of see past the narrative they're trying to say for just how completely absurd they all tend to be, regardless of whether or not they've been cleverly edited by me. When I'm painting these, I really like to look at the ways models are posed, the interactions that are happening between the models, the story that's being told. I love it when models are posing like this and I can make it so that they're holding something very different just to make it silly. Sometimes I use slogans and brand names as my inspiration as well. But I find, especially with fashion models, they tend to look just very angry or sad. So I, like to give them something else in this, a whole other story for this forlorn look. And I'm really trying to make them as absolutely silly as possible. I try to do this as a way for myself to not be as influenced by their pervasiveness and hopefully spread the same thing to others. But I know that they still affect me. So this is just me trying to be really proactive and disconnect myself as much as possible and hopefully I can do the same for you. Sorry. All right. Just keeping track of my notes. So I'll do a quick show of my process. Wow, all right, that's it. That's it for that particular slideshow. And then for my process, I've kind of broken it down into multiple layers. So I go through magazines and I find something that kind of speaks to me. So here's an example. I got a bunch of the magazines from the LCBO, so I could get a bunch of copies of the same one. So here's an ad that I took that I thought, this is something that I can paint on. And I started off just doing a bit of a white outline. I like to use Sharpie paint markers for when I'm starting them off. So I do a little outline. I used the hands of Kate Hudson's hands. I thought, this looks like she could be holding something, maybe like a big, long, worm-like creature that she's hugging. And I filled that in, again, with the white paint marker. And then I paint on it. Usually what I do is I go over it with watercolor paint, because that shows up really nicely over the white pigment from the paint markers and can get a lot of detail. Sorry, the lighting is a bit awkward in here with my cell phone set up so that you can see what I'm painting later on. But, you know, I like to get in there with textures. I like to give them a really silly facial expression. And now I've created an entirely new story about what I can do with this kind of thing. One of the things that I found really interesting about doing these and offering workshops, because back in the before times, I was doing a lot of physical hands-on workshops with these where I would bring my magazines over and basically give people markers, magazines, and they could do whatever they wanted. I've always so impressed by the creativity that people bring to the table. So, you know, sometimes I think I've done as much as I can do. I've interpreted it in as many ways as I can. I'm always blown away by what other people bring. So here's a few examples of some of the things other people have painted when I've done the workshops that I've just found super inspiring. So here's one that I did at the Big on Bloor Festival with a bunch of kids. And you give kids permission to paint over top of ads, and they'll just go for it. They have a blast, and they do the funniest things. So this kid in particular, I felt she was a kindred spirit, because I basically started these off just like painting funny things coming out of people's mouths and noses, and like models farting in their little bending over position. And yeah, I've done these so many different events now. Hopefully I'll be able to do these in person again one of these days. But until then, I'm so glad that I can be doing this online. And I just love what other people bring, the creativity that people have with this kind of thing. Because once you have permission basically to be looking at advertisements from this different perspective, you see all these other things that you can do for the stories. You know, was a story about wrestlers, and now it's about bath time. And I just love it. So hopefully you'll see these, and with having seen mine as well, you'll feel really inspired to get started with some of your own pieces. I've been doing these before. Like I said, I did the Big on Bloor Festival. I've done a bunch with Wavelength, with Long Winter, with the Pulp Art Party, which are all just very fun events with a lot of interactive art. I'm glad I finally get to do this with Figment, even if it is online, because I've been a big fan of Figment for a while now. All right, and those are the examples. So I hope that your brains are feeling juicy and ready to go, and that you've got some materials. That's basically the presentation, and I feel ready to get things started. I've got 2 cameras set up. You can see the one where I've got my notes, but once we get painting, you're going to be able to see what I'm working on. And I just really encourage everybody to participate in this conversation, to be working on your own stuff. I would love to also see what you're working on. And yeah, if you want to unmute yourselves now, you are more than welcome to. and we're gonna get started. Oh, sorry, I saw in the chat, I couldn't see the chat while I was showing. I apologize that I didn't slow down my talking. I tend to talk a bit fast when I'm excited about stuff. But I couldn't see the chat while I was doing the slideshow. I'm sorry. So I've got this big old Vanity Fair magazine here that I was flipping through before we started. And I bookmarked a page that I thought, this looks like somebody who I can do something fun with, make it look like she's holding something ridiculous. And again, you've got this facial expression where she just looks so bored out of her mind. And like, why is this the facial expression and the pose and the image that's supposed to convince us to want to buy these shoes and this purse? It's just what, as soon as you start thinking about ads from that lens of like, why this image, then it's just this like domino effect of looking at other ads and questioning why they chose that and why these things affect us so significantly. I just like to tear them right out. I don't bother with scissors. I like the jagged effect that it has on the edge of the page, especially because I show them sometimes and I want people to see that these are things that I have ripped right out of magazines, that it's not something that I've reproduced. It's not something that I've photographed and compiled myself. It's just something that I've stripped out of a magazine and I've painted directly on top of. And here I've got my whole little bin of paint markers, and these are what I usually bring when I'm doing them in person, so other people can use them as well. They're really nice and opaque over the images, which I find super useful for when doing these things, especially in a group environment. And then I don't think too much about what I'm going to be painting on there before I get started. I just kind of do an outline because this is just, it's supposed to be fun and it's supposed to be silly. And basically I'm painting on what I perceive as, well, as pre-garbage, right? Like magazines are meant to be ephemeral anyways, they're meant to be disposable anyways. And certainly all these ads that we see everywhere are meant to be very disposable because we have to be constantly reminded with, you know, new imagery, new looks, new fashions, new styles to constantly be replaced with new things that we need to want to kind of fulfill ourselves in whatever capacity, you know, consumer culture deems necessary. And, you know, I don't want to poo-poo on personal style, people making choices. We're all part of this system. We all have to participate in it, whether we like it or not. And of course we want to look cute and fun and represent ourselves. But I think this is, for me, all about finding a much healthier balance between what makes sense for me as a human who lives in this world versus what's actually feeding on my insecurities and trying to make me feel worse about myself. I'm opening up the chat so I can see. It's going to be hard for me to respond to any chats by typing, so if I see anything now, I'll just respond by speaking. But everybody else is welcome to chime in with your opinions on basically everything that I've been talking about.
Hello, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can. Hey, Cheryl.
Okay, great. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be doing this with everyone.
Yeah, this is awesome. I've never taken a online art course per se on advertising, like modifying advertising. But I like your concept. You know, you take something that's just supposed to be in your face, you know, this is what you should be admiring and buying and you know, just making fun out of it. So
yeah.
I like the fact, there's two facts there. I think you mentioned it. You know, kind of trying to give it some humor, like make it humorous, as, you know, hey, this is just, I'm going to splash some humor on there to kind of lighten it up, because otherwise it's like, yeah, too... I can't even explain things. You know, yeah, just like, buy this. This is what you should look like. This is what you should wear. And by the way, they don't even tell you the price half the time. It's like $1,250 for a little blouse or something. It's like, are you fucking kidding me right now? You know, who has a job that, you know, or even if you do can afford that kind of money, it's like, that's just pure waste. That's just pure materialism and consumerism. I mean,
yeah.
No one has a need to buy something that expensive. I mean, yeah, anybody can, this is what I think, anybody can spend their money on whatever they want, right? But what you're doing is you're just kind of making fun of it. You're kind of, you know, putting a little monster in there to be like, you explain that again, like your intent with how you put your little monsters in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically trying to give new narratives to the advertisements and make them very silly and sort of shift it from preying on our insecurities to making us laugh at it. It's really, for me, a lot about the power dynamic, because generally I feel like our relationships to ads is that it's like this non-consensual relationship where ads have this power over us, telling us what we should want or need. And by turning it into something funny, I'm taking the power away from them and giving it to the viewer to say, you know what, I don't have to respond to it the way you're designing me or designing this whole system for me to respond to it. I'm going to respond to it in a way where, like, I'm the one with the power and not you.
Yeah, everybody can choose to use their perception to see things in any way, shape, or form. But the fact is I think things are, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because I put my cell phone up on the stand and I didn't know if the volume was covered or the microphone. So what I want to say is, I think there's going to be a huge shift pretty shortly. I'm surprised. I mean, I don't buy magazines. I don't look at magazines. I just do a lot of collage or art collage with books, you know, just keeping all different kinds of books around here, and then just whatever I want to, you know, create, I just, you know, put all the different pictures together or whatever, like you said, rip them. And so anyway, so as far as advertisements, I don't really see them in magazines or because I don't have TV either, but I do see them on, you know, social media. They, of course, pop up. And the algorithms, they know what you've already been looking at. So that's what they show you more of, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that also is annoying, because even though they're showing you the same stuff that you already kind of have been looking at, it's like, how many times do I need to see a yoga class advertisement or like bamboo toothbrushes? It's like, you know, how many times do I need to see, you know, information about that? But this is exactly what's annoying about social media advertisements.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's really a way to make fun of that necessarily, except for just try to, you know, like breathe through it, you know, get over it and like try to.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hoping will kind of be the magic with this, is you're going to see those ads. We're going to see them no matter what, but you'll see them and hopefully you'll laugh at them because you'll just be so aware of how ridiculous they are. And even though you still have to see them, you're the one with the power now because you're seeing it through this lens of humor.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And you know, what I find really sad is that with like influencer culture, I feel like regular people in your life have more or less become like walking, talking advertisements because everyone's trying to sell this one image. So before it was like magazines and products, and now like even friends, you open Instagram, it's so curated that it feels like an ad. And sometimes it actually is an ad, like they're literally advertising.
Yeah, it's so hard because as a visual artist, like of course I want to be putting my stuff on Instagram. I want people to see it. But now it's this whole idea of as artists, we're also business people and we have to brand ourselves. And then it's just like, that makes me so uncomfortable. And it's been a real struggle for me personally to find this middle ground of like, okay, I want my stuff to get out there. I want people to enjoy my stuff. Theoretically, I'd also like people to buy my stuff, which is a whole other conversation of making anti-consumerist art that then I would like people to buy.
Yeah.
Very challenging to get through that. But
I mean, yeah. I peeked your social media and I don't think you fall in that category, honestly, because like I think you're being authentic. And I think as long as people are being authentic, you're not trying to sell an agenda. I'm talking about like, you know, the influencers like are literally like copy paste. You know, like everything is just like the shot at the beach and then the one at the bar and then the selfie and then the next day is like a product placement and it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's so much. And I mean, we're so immersed in this advertisement culture that I don't think it's a huge stretch for some people to just kind of embrace it instead of being critical of it, because it is, especially with the idea of becoming an influencer. Are basically, they're just regular people who have somehow clawed their way up the social media chain to have made a career out of it. And it creates this impression that that's something anybody can do if they just work hard at it. And maybe that's true. I don't really know because I've never tried to be an influencer, but it's a very appealing way for people to say, okay, I can become an influencer. I can do this, but to do so, I have to embrace these unfortunate tactics.
Yeah.
I want to mention something that's really funny. On the news, there was recently, you know, how in Barbados, what was it that's been going on in Barbados now? Oh, the president or something. What was it?
Yeah. Oh, they got. Sorry, are you asking or?
So anyway, it's about Rihanna. Rihanna shows up in Barbados because she's from there, right? You see her, you know, in this. I don't know how I came across it. I wouldn't have normally looked anything up anywhere, you know, about Rihanna, but there she is. She's like getting off the plane. Oh yeah, Barbados, you got to come here. You know, if you don't come here, then you're missing out. And I'm bringing this up because what the other girl just said about how even your friends or your different things that you follow, your people that you follow, they're like trying to sell you stuff now. Now Rihanna's telling people, if you don't go to Barbados and experience like the place where she used to live and grow up, that you're missing out. This whole thing about missing out. I mean, I'm an older generation than you guys, but yeah, social media is
yeah, it's very insidious, and it's, you know,
I have no clue how you guys like have dealt with it because you grew up with it. But me, you know, like it came into my life when I was already in my 30s and 40s, right? So it wasn't there. It didn't like make me as a person, right? I was already my own person. And it wasn't a part of my life necessarily that I had to contend with it. My daughter, I can see that she's influenced, you know, she's taking pictures of herself with, you know, that looking over her shoulder with her ass, right? It's like, you know, it's like, talk about bodily image, right? It's all about showing your body. Even if you're not trying to sell something, it's like you're selling yourself now. You got to show people your best foot forward, your best ass forward. So it's like, you know, that would be a subconscious way that advertisements are influencing people.
Oh, absolutely. There's been a lot of research about, well, a lot of what you're saying about the sexualization of increasingly younger people. And even if it's not blatantly sexualizing someone, there's still all these little subtle cues that we pick up on. And, you know, a lot of young girls get this message that like the way to get the positive attention that they want is through sexualizing themselves. And like, I never want to to disempower anyone. Like I want everybody to feel like they're sexually empowered, however they're comfortable with, that they're happy with their bodies, you know, to try to find that happy medium again of like people being able to do the things that make them happy, but to come from a place of authenticity and not a place of having internalized all these negative messages.
Well, what I'm thinking is that younger people may not even know the difference. You know, they just grew up like that. You know, maybe my daughter, she's even 26 years old, but still, you know, Kim Kardashian, and you know the everything about having an ass, and you know, just, you know, things should be a certain way, and who knows how these people are thinking, honestly. Who knows? Like, so many people are like depressed and suicidal and whatnot because life sucks to a lot of people, you know, because nothing is real anymore. It's just a bunch of confusing images of like a society or a social norm that just is like, really? This is it? This is why I'm here on this planet right now?
I've had that exact same thought.
So
I think the issue with influencers that also happens is the main reason people follow them is because they portray a rich lifestyle. And sometimes, and there's been like documentaries about influencers going totally broke to bring out that illusion to get their fellowship, right? So it's creating like a culture that's not based on having character or being a generous person or anything like that, but in a culture of accumulation. Yeah.
Or even faking it. A few influencers have come out, or have been called out rather, for photoshopping their pictures. Like especially travel bloggers and stuff. Like they're all photoshopped. They're not in any of these places. It's all fake. It's so fake and unrealistic. It's insane.
Which, strangely enough, I feel better for their parents' pockets if it is photoshopped.
Right, but then imagine like a kid being like, "Oh my God, look, they have all this, and they get to go to all these places," and it makes them feel like shit about their life, and it's not even. They don't have. I feel like teens these days don't have the discernment to say. Like when you're younger, you just don't know that this is all part of a really sinister plan, I think.
Yeah, and I think, well, you know, with ads, we all kind of know that people are photoshopped, but the whole idea of influencers being normal people like you and me, that then can mess with people a lot more because people are perhaps less savvy with that and less aware of how much manipulation is involved with what they're doing. But that's why I like to do these workshops and have these conversations, is just talking about it is helping people become more aware of what's going on.
Oh yeah, sure.
I still haven't seen the movie called, the documentary called The Social Dilemma. Has anybody seen that?
No.
I started watching it, but I didn't finish. ADHD. But yeah, it's supposed to be really good.
It's only on Netflix, though.
What's it about?
The Social Dilemma talks all about social media and advertisements and just society, how everything is so like monetized and influencers and materialistic, and buy this and this is going to make you happy if you buy this, and that kind of stuff, basically. I don't know. I mean, I really haven't even seen it. This came out more than a year ago, and I want to see it, but it's a Netflix series. thing. You can't really access it very much.
Right.
But anyway,
I really wish we didn't have to have social media, but Stephanie, I feel you. Like as an artist, I feel like you're caught in these two worlds, and if you want to get out there even remotely, you gotta have something, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's been hard. And I mean, I don't think social media has to be bad. I think it could be an amazing and powerful tool for communication. And I think back to when Facebook first started, when it, became available to people who weren't in school, and it used to be fun.
Sure.
Which is, I would definitely not describe it as fun anymore. Now it just feels like half obligation, half just like, if I don't check it, there's like that nagging feeling, it's like, did I remember to turn off the stove? Maybe there's like a message that I missed. I don't like it, but it's such a big part of my life now. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. Like when I wake up, one of the first things that I do is I grab my phone because that's my alarm. And I'm like, well, I might as well check my email. I might as well check Facebook. I might as well check Instagram. And I hate it. I hate that that's my first instinct for what to do. Like my eyes wake up and I go to a screen.
Yeah.
I mean, they did create social media using the same techniques. I think of casinos. So it totally... I mean, they really did their brain neuroscience research when they did things, and they said, okay, let's create the most addictive platforms possible. So we're all hooked, and it's being recognized as a real addiction just because of the brain chemistry involved. So it's not, willpower is not enough, I think.
No, every now and then when I go up, I forget my phone, and it's kind of the best feeling. I feel so liberated from it.
Yeah. But you know what though? It's a compulsion. People say that things are an addiction. I think the word addiction is too hard and harsh in a lot of cases. It's a compulsion. Okay, things are a compulsion. Like you just have like a whimsical urge, to do a lot of things, and it's not necessarily evil or like bad. It's just something that you do that has become a habit that's not necessarily serving you, like your best interest.
Yeah,
so that's the whole thing about social media, but
well, I think the issue is the way that social media is designed is to keep us hooked for like a really, really long time. Yeah. First of all, the social dilemma, a lot of it talks about how it filters out content to be always content that is of high interest to you, so which kind of puts you in a little bubble, but it also shows more and more outrageous content because that's going to give you a higher reaction, but also, which also means it brings you into fringe communities of that content. Am I making sense at all?
It made it more extreme. It found like people with social media, there's less and less of a middle ground, so it feeds into your most extreme, like the most extreme version, I guess, of yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then you hear all these stories about people getting sucked into like conspiracy theory groups and all these really damaging things. And it's like, how did this person who seems so intelligent get sucked into this world? And
it's like, that's how.
Yeah, that's exactly how.
There's a different version of the internet exists for so many different people, right?
Yeah. I have some friends who sometimes they'll get advertisements for things that they actively dislike, but they won't report it. They want the algorithm to think that they should be getting those ads, because if they get them, it means other people who are more vulnerable to the messages might not get them. If that makes sense.
Oh, that's so nice.
Well, yeah, that's silly. As if they have any control over like how the algorithms work for other people.
Yeah. I think, you know, when an algorithm or a company is paying for advertisement, then they pay for like a certain number of people to see that ad. So if they're getting it, it means that like somebody else specifically isn't getting it.
Well, you know, that's kind of like martyrdom, though, right?
Yeah.
You're suffering for the sake of. It's not even a real. It's not even real. It's like it's your mental, you know, impression of what you think might be happening, and you're hurting yourself for something that's not even necessarily good for you. I mean, what the hell is that?
I think they figure if they're going to be seeing ads anyways, they might as well try to put a positive spin on it.
I think a researcher on the ethics of the algorithms said, we think like our phones or computers or technology are the product, like because we go out and we buy it, so we're buying a product. But she was like, no.
We're the product, right?
You are the product.
Yeah.
You are the product.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, you know, all this different stuff. Oh, you know, Google wants you to participate in their, you know, posting your photos and your location and where did you take that photo. You know what you're doing? You're building up their whole photo gallery of pictures of everything around the world, right? It's like people don't even realize what they're doing. They're like, oh, great, let's post this on Google Maps or whatever, and it really all you're doing is you're giving your own personal data away for free.
Yeah,
that they're benefiting from that because then they're using that, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where like it would be nice if we could just like upload pictures to share and not have to worry about the fact that we're basically giving our information away, because you know it's amazing to be able to travel and share your photos and share your experiences and connect with people like that. It just sucks that the flip side of the coin is that we're being so exploited for wanting to do these things, these, you know, seemingly simple things.
Yeah, it used to be innocent.
Well, I don't know. I mean, these advertisement techniques that they're using, those have been around for decades now. It's just that it wasn't quite as intimate because we didn't have all of this new technology the way we do now. But I've got, I'm going to stop painting for a second to look at some of my notes, but I have written down here basically like the year that advertising went from sort of how it used to be, where you would see an ad, and there was still a lot of misinformation, obviously, of like 9 out of 10 doctors recommend this cigarette. Like, no, of course they don't. But, you know, you would just see like a list of facts and information about the products, and that's what was trying to convince you to buy it. They weren't trying to reach you on an emotional level, really. They were trying to reach you on like a sensible, pragmatic level. And then that all changed. Oh, all my notes are out of order from the last time I did this. Let's see. So it was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. He applied his uncle's groundbreaking work on understanding the human mind, not to helping people overcome emotional difficulties, but to selling them products through manipulation. He was the brains behind the campaign to get women smoking by branding it as defiant, independent, and a fashionable act. So that was really when the advertisement table started to turn, when like the first time somebody basically used psychological techniques for selling instead of for helping people. And I thought I had the year, but I mean, I think knowing that it's Freud's nephew gives you a little bit of context of when that happened.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Hey, Steph,
It really does.
Hey, Steph,
I feel like you're the anti-Mad Men.
Yeah, basically.
Steph.
Yeah.
Here. We had a new participant show up, Ron, and can you just catch him up a little bit?
Oh, sure, of course. Hey, Ron, welcome to the workshop / conversation.
Sorry I'm lurking, but I think this is an awesome idea, and I just had something that just only got me here now. So I may just sort of watch tonight, but I think this is an awesome idea. Whoever came up with it is very Very cool.
Thank you. I mean, it's great. It's something that you can do anytime. And even though you're here late, if you have a magazine or newspaper or any ephemera with an ad in it and a pen, I just recommend tearing that right out and you can make your own.
Yeah, I'll do something. I've got something else I got to attend to here, but I'll be in and out. And
Okay.
hopefully I'll have something to show by the end of. Are you going till 8 o'clock still, or?
Yes.
Okay, I should have something by then.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And if not, just, apply this knowledge to every time you see an ad and say, I see through you ad. And basically you can create, instead of seeing some woman holding a purse with this like blah facial expression, you can see her hugging this weird creature instead.
Yeah, no, ad hacking, awesome idea.
Thank
Very
you.
cool.
Thanks so much. Actually, since I got my notes out, I have some questions that I can ask people about advertisements, which I think will be a little bit surprising, which is, how many ads do you think you see on an average day?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
15. I'm not counting like influencers. I'm thinking just like more legit advertising.
Mm-hmm. I think also with this question, we have to define what we consider to be an advertisement.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So if it's something straightforward, like you turn on a TV or a radio and someone's saying, hey, eat here, buy this, that's a very straightforward advertisement. But I think advertisements come in all different forms, including with influencers when they're trying to, when they get sponsorship from a brand. Of course, I think that also does count as a legit advertisement.
I say 100.
I think more.
More, probably. I was being generous. I was being on the downside.
Well, it depends. Like if a person like myself sits at home all day and all they do is watch Sadhguru videos, I mean, there's probably not a lot of advertisements except for YouTube, right? So, for example, every video that I might watch has probably at least one ad, right, for every like 10 minutes. So unless you're right at the computer or whatever, or wherever you are, if you're unable to switch that off, then you have to sit there and deal with it, right? Listen to it. But so you drive down the street, you see a billboard, that's an ad. You go into a store, and every single one of their sales ads, buy this 50% off, that's an ad. It's everywhere all the time.
Yeah. What about brand names on clothing? If you pass by somebody and they're wearing a shirt for the Gap or for Tommy Hilfiger, does that also count as an advertisement?
I wouldn't think so. No. I mean, you can't start analyzing every friggin' thing that a person's wearing. I mean, oh my God.
But
they live in their life, they're just wearing some clothes. What?
But I think about that, and the reason why I specifically don't wear clothes with big brand names on it is because in my mind, I don't want to be doing free advertisement for a brand name. So in my mind, those also count for me as advertisements.
I can see that. Yes, I can see that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because then you're that's true. I hadn't thought of it like that.
And I think with the studies that I found information from that calculated how many ads people see in a day, I think they also even consider, if you're in a store, not just the ads in the store, but the packaging on products are also advertisements for those very products. And I think that's a bit more of a gray area. But then you think, if that counts as an advertisement, every time you go to your pantry or your kitchen, you're seeing ads. Or if you look, say, on a cereal box, maybe you don't consider Kellogg's cereal to be an ad, but you turn it around and there's like a cross promotion for, bring this coupon in and get a discount on a movie or get a discount on something else. So I think also when you start going down this rabbit hole of what is or is not considered an ad, you realize, holy crap, ads are in so many more places than I ever even imagined before.
Yeah, that's true.
Technically, even product placement.
100% product placement in TV shows and movies. That is absolutely advertising. And I know this because I work in film, and like, it's not a coincidence when you see like Sony or Apple or something on a product, like though they get sponsored by those companies. And if you look really closely when you're watching a scene, say with computer monitors, and you'll notice you won't see any brand names, it's because people go in there and they put stickers over the brand names of the companies that they aren't getting sponsorship from. So when you blatantly see an advertisement, that's never by accident.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of that in mind, does that change how many ads everyone thinks they see in a day?
Yeah.
It's
everywhere. Hey, something I want to mention. I got this book at the Salvation Army.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see this? It's called The Mind Benders.
Oh, neat. Mm-hmm.
The whole book, it's from the 60s. It's all about different kinds of advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, let me read this part here. Let me see what the contents. Okay, so it talks about, I haven't even looked at it yet, but I saw it the other day and I thought, oh, I want to grab that because I'm going to be watching this on this video with you. Okay, so perception, the part one is your perception of things. When you look at things, like, first of all, seeing like how you see things will also influence whether whether you're going to be interested in that or not. And then media, there's advertising, radio, films, print, and music. So this was back in the 60s, so they didn't even have, any modern technology.
Yeah.
Print advertising, other kinds of advertising on the radio, films.
Yeah.
Print and music too. Like you said, there's a lot of sponsorship and like hidden stuff too that is supposed to be a subconscious thing. So, wow.
Yeah, this idea of brand familiarity. So they don't even necessarily want you to be consciously aware that you're seeing the brand, but then when you go to a store, there's, you're like, oh, do I want to buy product A or product B? Maybe product A, you have this subconscious affiliation with the show you really like, and it has this familiarity, and that might lead you to buying product A instead. So the studies that I found, there was one study that was conducted in the 1970s for how many ads people saw in a day. And in the 1970s, it was between 500 to 1,600 ads a day in the 70s.
Holy smokes.
Yes, so...
Sorry, what was that number again? In the 70s, it was how much?
Between 500 to 1,600. So I think that would depend, on if somebody had a television set, or like what Cheryl was saying, you don't really watch TV, you don't have access to as many ads as other people. So in the 70s, you would be on the lower end of that spectrum as opposed to somebody who's maybe, listening to a lot of radio and watching a lot of TV. That will be higher. But that was the 70s. So in 2007, so, we had internet, but not to the extent that we have it right now. It was estimated that people saw up to 5,000 ads a day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait, how many?
5,000.
What?
Yeah.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah. And that was surveying over 4,000 people to get that number. So they got over 4,000 people to basically keep track of every time they saw an ad in a day. And of course, in this case, I think they considered things like brand names on shirts, things like that, to be advertisements as well.
Right.
Now in 2021, it's between 6,000 to 10,000 ads every single day.
What?
But what's kind of funny, and what I think is kind of ironic, is that there are studies that show the more ads we see, actually, the less effective those advertisements become, because we just block them out. So then advertisers have to go to more and more extreme measures to get advertisements to work, which is not good. That's obviously not ideal, but eventually that's just going to keep backfiring. You're going to get to this point where people are at peak ad absorption, and basically these advertisers spend tons of money, so much money on advertisements, and for what? For nothing that's actually going to make much of a difference at the end of the day.
Wow. I mean, it's no wonder the lengths that some companies go to these days to push their product or service.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Well, I got some of these statistics from websites of advertising agencies that were using this to be like, people see this many ads in a day, but we can make your ads stand out. Like, that's the wrong message. That's not right.
Not a great approach.
It's funny though, like finding information that I consider to be very anti-advertisement being used by ad agencies to promote themselves.
What's really sad too is that I feel like because everyone's just so saturated and skeptical about ads, and like rightfully so, and being tried to be sold on something, but I feel like that leaves like less room for people to genuinely share with each other. You know what I mean? Because there's like that skepticism, like, oh, this might just be like, what are you trying to sell me? It's like, no, I genuinely just want to share this with you. And like smaller
what,
artists or businesses
gotten so used to thinking that social media or Instagram or text messaging is the only way to contact each other. Get back on the phone, write a letter. You know what I mean? Go on. Like get into the real forms of real communication,
Yeah, I think everyone loves it when they get some like actual physical mail. I think that's one of the nicest things you can do to someone as a gesture of like, hey, I'm thinking about you, and like I'm taking the time to buy a stamp and write this out on paper and send it your way.
Yes.
And you know what? You're not going to get any like weird ad in that. Opposed to when you send an email.
Get back to basics. And you know what? I think as people start to change their wants and desires with, as far as if they get fed up with all the advertising, or they just change in general, they go move to the country or whatever the case may be, there just won't be an audience anymore for certain types of products. And so I think things are actually going to start going away. I think I'm not living in a mental utopia, but what I'm saying is things can change as well, and especially if the solar flare and all the electricity goes down, that'll be a good break for us too, right? We'll just have to live off the grid for a while. So buy your storm chest, everybody.
I mean, that seems like a bit of an extreme solution.
Just turn it off. If you're so sick of it, just turn it off.
What do you hear now about like a resurgence in people buying books and like physical things like that instead of just reading everything on tablets, because people kind of crave that tactility and that more like physical connection with things?
Go old school. It's where it's at. That's real life was lived in the real world, That's why people are depressed. They're not living a real life. They're not exercising. You need to move your body. You need to get out. You need to be with people. Life is about more than just yourself. You need to make it about something bigger than yourself. You need to go out and be involved in the community. You need to, help other people, belong to a certain group in your community. Get involved with something that you feel passionate about. No wonder everybody's depressed. They're just like, all they can do is scroll through their reels all fucking day. Oh, excuse my French. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for me, it's all about finding a happy medium and like educating people to be aware of the ads. Because ironically, I want people to notice how many ads they see every day and where they see them and why they see them. Because if it's all affecting us on the subconscious level, we don't really have the tools we need to deconstruct that. There's if people are aware of it and they say, okay, I see what you're doing and I'm not going to let you do that. To me, that's where the power is. And again, I think social media can be amazing. I think that all of these tools we have can be amazing. Like during the pandemic, being able to see people's faces, even though it was over a screen, was still an absolute gift. So yeah, it's really for me about education so that we can have these things, have these tools and use them for all the good that they can bring into our lives and be critical and aware of the bad.
Yeah.
How would you, Steph, personally change your like consumer behavior if you wanted to not support these industries? Do you have a thought about that?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about consumer behaviors, Alex. I think about this quite a bit. I do wonder if it's possible to consume anything ethically in a consumer and capitalist society. And really, at the end of the day, we kind of have to choose the lesser of the evils for whatever, we can afford in our lives. Because if you want to do everything ethically or as ethically as possible, that also means you have to have a lot of money, because there's just not a lot of ethical options for people who aren't super wealthy. Like, we have to participate in this system, whether we like it or not. So I just try to be very aware of what I'm buying and of what my options are. I think a lot about packaging, trying to buy products that don't have a lot of packaging. Like I said, I don't wear anything with brand names on it. I think about that a lot. I try to support independent businesses as much as I can. So, and again, this is a privilege I have because I live in a part of the city where I'm walking distance to so many independent, small fruit markets and everything that I need. Basically, I can buy from an independent business or a Canadian-owned business, and that's something that not everybody has the option to do. But yeah, I think about that a lot, and obviously, I just think about educating people.
Yeah, I think for me, when that thought comes up the most is when I'm gift shopping. So around Christmas time, it's what won't end up in somebody's junk drawer and is just caught up on the hype that doesn't actually have a purpose. So like a big consideration for me is
Bless you.
Oh, somebody sneezed. Oh, bless you.
Sorry.
It's just making sure whatever I give to somebody is actually useful. And even using comments like, if you don't have a use for this thing, make sure to pass it on. Don't keep this thing, Yeah,
out of a sense of obligation to me because I got you the gift.
Yeah, exactly. Because then it just has no purpose.
Yeah, I guess this is such a perfect time of year to be having this conversation about consumerism. And with the holidays, there's so much pressure for people to buy gifts, whether they think the person will like it or not. You still have to have this gesture of giving something to someone. And I don't actually celebrate Christmas, and I'm so grateful. I don't have to buy gifts for anybody for Christmas, and that's like the best gift that anybody could have ever given me, is to being brought up Jewish. So I don't have to celebrate Christmas.
I kind of agree on that one.
Yeah. Like I love giving gifts to people, but I don't tend to do it out of obligation. Sometimes, if I want to give someone a gift for their birthday, I've bought stuff that I thought that they would like, and I've held on to it for months until their birthday. And then I'm just like, I have something that I know that they'll like. Or sometimes I'll just give it to them anyways, and I don't need an occasion for it. But yeah, I hate that idea of having to have that pressure to go out and buy something for someone just for the sake of buying something for someone. And I think a lot of people feel that pressure this time of year and spend money that they don't need to spend and get things for people that those people don't necessarily want or need. It's awkward. It sounds so awkward.
Yeah, and then just finding a like space inside your house. Was gonna say I actually have to head out, but I wanted to show out my art before I left.
Please.
Fortunately, still stuck with a little bit of work today. But so basically, this was an advertisement for probiotic, and I changed it to her giant boots that she's running in, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's much better.
That's so cool. I love it.
Thanks. But yeah, thank you, Steph, and I really enjoyed this.
Yay!
See you soon.
Bye. Here.
Bye.
Bye.
If anybody else wants to share their progress, or if you finished anything, you're more than welcome to. I thought I would do a bunch of fast pieces, but now I've just started to get into the details with just the one. But I'd love to see what everyone else is doing.
Which,
Okay, if I can turn my phone around here. Let me see if I can show this. Okay, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
so this is a combination of pictures of books, right?
Mhm.
So it was a bookstore flyer for all different kinds of new books that were coming out, and what I've put in between them so far is credit card like the rules and regulations for having credit card.
Mhm.
You know, so it's a combination of paper. Like a paper can represent knowledge, entertainment, you know, information, stories, and paper in the form of this, like, I forget what it was now, a bank statement or a credit card, you know, all the fine print or whatever.
Mhm.
So it represents, you know, buying stuff, consumerism. And the fact that I've got so many books in one place could indicate that I might have an addiction, you know, like it's like I can't have enough, right?
Mhm.
So, I don't know. This is just what happened, I guess. This is just kind of like what happened. I haven't psychoanalyzed the whole thing yet, but subconsciously there must be some reason that I did this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different
It
types of storytelling happening in this piece.
I think they're all Canadian books too. It was a Canadian bookstore, I think. I can't remember now.
Oh, it's so interesting. I'd love to see that in person.
Huh?
I would love to see that in person.
Oh, you know what I'll do? When I'm done with it, I'll put it up on my Instagram.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
What's your Instagram? I can't, my phone is looking down at what I'm painting.
I'll put it in the chat.
Cool, I'll write it down with a pen. I'm gonna be all old fashioned.
Oh, you're gonna be old school. Okay,
I
Cheryl.
already followed you, Stephanie. Is that weird? I found you already.
Cheryl, CHERYL, MacDonald, MacDonald, _ creative. Yeah, so it's Cheryl, I think it's Cheryl J. MacDonald _ creative on Instagram.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I also have something I could share. It's not as detailed. I kind of did a few.
Amazing. Yeah, that was my plan, but then I just started getting into the detail.
So this is one. I don't know if you can see it.
Ooh.
That looks so wicked.
Yeah. Are you using paint markers for it?
Yeah, the Posca ones.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So I did actually two kind of related on the theme of like, on the theme of family, because I really feel like even if they're not advertising a product, like family's always being sold in some way. Then like wanna like need to drink to be happy, happiness of drinks, like being sold on vacations.
That's awesome.
Vacation
That
time.
is so cool.
I went fast.
That's amazing. That's what's great about the paint markers. And they dry so quickly. Oh, I love them.
And right, they're amazing. I kind of like the smell too, which I'm not sure is a good thing. Maybe
I'm sure it's fine.
And then like I put a bunch of like little hearts on like the chocolate.
You're a machine.
Chocolate love. So yeah,
that's amazing.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah. Well, when I was
that they advertise a family unit.
Yeah.
That's a very subtle subconscious thing that a brand is trying to sell you on, the concept of family and what they make that they can sell to you that will say, hey, this will make you and your family, like so happy and whatever, right? Wow, yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Like, they don't even have to sell you a product. They're selling you an idea. Well, that's
100% it. That like really goes back to that, to Freud's nephew, who started the idea of selling people emotions instead of information. And it goes back to that. So I actually looked up some of the propaganda techniques that advertisers use. And basically there's 7 main techniques that go through all of this, like from something like selling this idea of the concept of family and using that sort of emotional manipulation. Like they're all just different types of propaganda. So there are 7 types, and there's I don't want to just read you everything because that'll be very
that's really interesting.
Yeah, but it's name calling, glittering generalities, transfer, testimonial, plain folk, card stacking, and bandwagon. Those are, I guess, the more technical names. But so card stacking propaganda is, it makes products look better than they are and better than their competitors. And this is usually using more text. So if it's something like 0 trans fat or 50% stronger, and sort of throwing these numbers out there that actually don't have any meaning whatsoever, but it makes them sound better and it makes their competitors sound worse, And I think about products that, they'll advertise like gluten-free, but it's on something that would be gluten-free anyways, like but they use that to
like gluten-free salt. And they say like naturally gluten-free, because it's like naturally gluten-free.
Because it's salt, of course it's gluten-free, but
like vegan too. They say this like hand soap is vegan. Like, who's going to eat a hand soap anyway? Like, it doesn't, that's not the term to use then, right?
But that's not the point, because it sort of triggers these emotional side effects of like, oh, I like things to be vegan. Oh, I like things to be gluten-free, even though it's like, wait, but it's salt. So of course it's gluten-free. Like, what are they trying to pull with this?
Yeah.
So that one's called card stacking. Then name-calling propaganda, which portrays competition products negatively. So like you might see this in a Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, or like a McDonald's versus Burger King advertisement. And it's usually done in like a joking kind of way, so it doesn't come across as mean-spirited, but you still walk away with this message of, company A is better than company B, as a way to like create brand loyalty.
I can see that a lot with like Apple and Windows, where
that's a perfect example for it.
Ew, you use an iPhone? Ew, you have an Android?
Yeah, all of that stuff, and that's a very common technique that's used. One of them is testimonial propaganda, and that's anytime a celebrity endorses something, or an influencer endorses something. Because the thing with celebrities and influencers is that part of their doing their job is they have this image that familiarizes themselves to people. So you think of celebrities kind of as your friend, even though you've never met them, but you feel like you really know them. You feel like you've got a relationship with them, even though you don't. So when the celebrity you really like says, hey, buy this brand, there's a part of you that's just like, oh, well, if Drew Barrymore likes it, or if whatever influencer really likes this product, it must be really good. No, that really ties into what we were talking about earlier with influencers and how they manage to be successful in creating this, because it's not just about selling a product, it's about creating a relationship with the people who are looking at your Instagram, or if you're a celebrity, about like creating a relationship. And you see this, during the Toronto Film Festival, back when that was happening in person. I remember going past these theaters and there'd be these huge crowds of people hoping to like catch a glimpse of their favorite celebrity. And I've always had trouble understanding the appeal in that. And I think it's because they feel like they're connected, and they want to have that connection in reality, even if it's just through a crowd of people, even if they're not going to get to meet them or have a conversation with them, they still feel like they have this relationship and they want to support them. And there's that excitement of being in the same place as them. But at the end of the day, they're complete strangers. They don't know each other. However this person presents themselves in the media may or may not be accurate. Like, you just don't know. But there's a lot of power in that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Really makes you think how fragile we are.
Fragile, and like this desire for connection, this desire for community. And, when you don't have a lot of options for community, like Cheryl, you were saying before, it's a lot easier to fill in those gaps with buying, with consumerism. And the way advertisements are presented to us, it really does seem like an easy answer to something like family, to showing this product that maybe it's for like a restaurant or something, but they're actually selling you the idea of family, or they're selling you the idea of love and companionship. And that's one of the other ones from me. I think that's the glittering generalities propaganda, which is, oh no, nope, I'm wrong. It's transfer propaganda. So an advertiser tries to transfer good or bad feelings you have associated with something to their brand, product, or service. This can be an ad mentioning that products aren't tested on animals, or using a patriotic or nostalgic song, or even evoking happy memories of childhood. So you see that with these portrayals of family. Even if you didn't have a happy family life growing up, everyone loves the idea of a happy family and wants that. And so when you see that being portrayed by a product, it's very easy to associate those feelings of desire to that product. That's where the transferring comes in.
Wow.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds like Freud had an influence in those theories.
Right? No kidding. I think it's
I can see it.
Yeah. Yep. I think, if his nephew didn't come up with this, surely somebody else would have by now.
It's also really scary. Like, I've gotten into that quite a bit with what I've studied. It's what happened in Nazi Germany. A lot of it actually had to do with their background in graphic design, in propaganda, and in art, in architecture. So it's they definitely innovated something quite horrific by designing all of these elements.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they also used a lot of what we're saying here, transfer propaganda, but for the negative side of like things were so much better before, in this case, like the Jews came in and took all of our jobs, or however they wanted to spin it in a way to villainize this group of people. And so, even though Jews had nothing to do with Germans losing their job, they were just in like a huge recession and they were recovering from World War I. But once they kind of painted this picture, it was a lot easier to say, oh, okay, it's this group's fault, and not just like world politics, not things that are outside of our own control, or like having really unfortunate beliefs that should be analyzed.
And I think they were one of the first to like have an entire department dedicated to this. I mean, it has like, you know, the finance ministry and military. It was campaigns, and that just shows you that that's where so much of their power laid there. And they eliminated all the other arts that existed, called it deviant and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it was gone from people's lives.
And even, you know, like the good guys, or if you look at American propaganda of that time, they used a lot of those very similar techniques. And, you know, it's just that at the end of the day, they weren't the fascists, but you look at everything like Uncle Sam, or you look at all these, this propaganda in Britain to try to get people to use fewer resources, or to like bring their metallic objects to get melted down, to get turned into weapons for the war, and just making it seem like it was people's civic duty to do these things. So, you know, it comes in like all places, all shapes and sizes. But certainly with Nazi Germany, I know that that's where you see a lot of the beginnings of this idea of like things were better in the past, and how that's something that's used by a lot of fascist leaders. Like if you look at Trump and everything that he was doing with, you know, Make America Great Again, this again isn't a reality. This again doesn't exist, but it sort of plays on this desire that people have and makes it easier to justify committing atrocities.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Familiar with John Hartfield?
Sorry, John Hartfield?
Yeah, he was, you're talking about Nazi Germany. He was an ad hacker extraordinaire. Using collage, he took a lot of images. For example, he took one of Hitler and made this thing with gold coins coming out of his mouth. That's one of his famous pieces. But just with this era that you're talking about, he's an artist. You should Google to see some.
I just wrote down his name.
Oh, what's the name?
Ad making. Yeah. John. Well, it's a made-up name, but if you Google John Hartfield, like Heart Field, you'll see a guy who was using art to try to fight against, and he was on the most wanted list of Nazis for what he was doing. He would do magazine covers for, worker groups and unions and things, and very, very, very interesting. I think you'll like what you see there.
Yeah, that definitely seems like it is up my alley.
Oh wow, these are so powerful. Holy shit. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, they were really solid in that department, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then what's more unfortunate is all of these tactics are being used to sell us things.
Wow. I feel like everything that makes art so great and amazing also makes it so dangerous, like in the wrong hands. Like how subliminal it is, how visual we are, like how much of our communication as humans is not verbal, it's visual, all these things.
I mean, there's a reason why the Nazis got rid of all the other forms of art, is because it can communicate powerful ideas and powerful emotions. It can be dangerous.
Yep, they didn't want those unchecked. Like they needed complete control.
Yeah. So like the art that we're doing today, which is all about questioning power structure, would be quite frowned on, I imagine.
And colors too. Colors, there's a psychology of colors, right? So, gray is calm, red is like passionate. So also when advertisements, it's not even just about the words or the pictures, it's the color in the advertisement as well that triggers something in your brain, that there's, the color psychology. So there's that too.
Yeah, the amount of studying and psychoanalysis that goes into advertisements is it's uncomfortable.
I just bought some of these paint markers today. Quick dry paint stick. I just got it for the first time today and I like them.
I love them. I use them for so many different things. Yeah, with what I'm doing, I started off with a layer of that, but now I'm going over top of it with watercolor paint.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking at like how you were doing the darker lines, and I was wondering what that was. So it's just water paint.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like normally I do this over the white when I just do the fill-in, but yeah, I don't know. I like did the pink and felt like it needed some detailed textures that I wasn't able to do with the marker.
Yeah, this is my first time working on like a magazine sort of like layout, so I like struggled with finding the right materials, but yeah, I feel like I want to try your method next time.
Yeah. Well, we still have time today.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah, I guess we're at about the halfway mark right now, so if anybody wants to take a pee break, this would be a good time. I'm just gonna keep painting here. I guess you could also do that anytime. There's no reason you have to do it now.
Because when you're having fun, you don't want to like leave your table, so sometimes that reminder is always good.
There you go, exactly. I know that when I get really deep into a project, suddenly I'm just like, oh, why does my stomach hurt? Oh, right, because I haven't eaten anything all day because I've been working too much.
I hear you on that one.
So when I like set my alarm now so I remember to eat.
Wow.
Yeah, especially when I'm at my studio. It's so easy to forget.
So you were saying we're going to take a moment to I'm trying to say a commercial like back in the 50s or 60s. They would have a break, and here's a message from our sponsor, right?
Can you imagine if I had a message from sponsors?
That'd be so funny.
So right now you can tell us, okay, you go take a pee and have a drink of Pepsi Cola. I don't know.
Oh dear.
Being sponsored by
they're paying you. Pepsi's paying you to tell us right now. Go get some Pepsi.
I'm sorry, if that had happened, I'd give up on people online.
That would be. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if like an actual company approached me and said, "Can you do this for an actual campaign? Like, we'll pay you to do this for a campaign." Would I do it? And I think I would do it because that would be so funny. Like, you want to pay me to make fun of your company? Sure. I mean, I still have to pay rent, and again, that's the dilemma of making artwork that's so critical of consumer culture, but also I need to be able to pay rent.
I know, it's hard.
No, but I think it's important to acknowledge that we live within these systems that we don't like, but have to participate in them, because otherwise you just feel guilty all of the time whenever you just have to like go to the grocery store or buy something that you don't think is the best ethical choice, but It's the choice that you have for what you need in that moment. I know I used to carry around a lot of guilt with me for making choices that I didn't think were as ethical as I could be doing in whatever my circumstances were at the time. And after a while, I was just like, carrying this guilt around with me doesn't actually help me with anything. It's not helping the world. Like, I participate in this system even though I don't like it. It's just what happens when you live in the world. You don't have a choice but to participate in these things. And that was very helpful and very liberating for me, because I was just feeling guilty so much of the time for things that I didn't really have control over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are a lot of choices that we have to make that hard decision.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to participate in this or not? So it still is. There still is a choice. Everybody has free will. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, no one is forcing us to do anything. Mm-hmm. It's a choice.
I mean, it's not a choice for everyone, though.
Like what? Like, give an example.
Well, if you don't make very much money and you need to put food on the table, and your choices are to buy something from McDonald's or to buy something that you have to take a lot of time to prepare, but you're working a full-time job, you have other responsibilities, and you need to eat. So, you end up choosing the thing that's less healthy, that's less beneficial, just because that's what you need to do to survive. Even with me, when I'm going grocery shopping, like, would I rather go to the organic grocery store? Would I rather go buy clothing that I know is not made in a factory somewhere by people who are basically getting slave wages? Of course, but I just can't afford to do that. I can't afford to not buy clothing that's hasn't been made in a factory, basically. And I could go secondhand shopping, but I might not have the time to do that because I have to work. I have all these other responsibilities. So, choices like that, where it's like, it would be better if I did these other things, but that's just not feasible for my life.
That's I guess that's what I just wanted to point out, is that everybody has choices, right? And everybody has to go within their mind, their mindset and their abilities and their time, and but still, people still have choices, though. If a person felt really strongly about certain things, then they would choose to maybe buy one package of really good healthy chicken over 2 packages of really shitty pork sausage. You know what I mean? So I mean,
yeah, but that again, that goes back to like what people can afford. If I have $20 and that needs to last me for the entire week for groceries, I'm going to buy the cheap pork and not the good quality chicken.
Yeah, I think it really bugs me sometimes how much emphasis is placed on the individual.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When and people I'm not saying here now, but in general, I find in so many spaces, the amount of time that is spent, but you could be doing this better. Okay, but you could be doing that better. And back and forth, when it's we're tearing each other apart sometimes, when really we should be focusing on the bigger picture. It's how are companies being held responsible?
Yeah, why are these even the choices that we have? Mm-hmm. When shouldn't the people who are manufacturing these things, who are profiting off of these things, they should have a bit more of a responsibility as well for doing things that will benefit the world and not make it worse.
Exactly.
Yeah, really. Every time I buy a product that's in a plastic, those single-use plastic containers, it's now it's put on us to you have to put it in the recycle, you have to sort it and recycle it. And you go through all this stuff, and then you're made to feel guilty about buying a product that's in a single-use plastic container. Mm-hmm. And you walk around this guilt, and then you have to sort it and to go through all this stuff, and then you come to find out only what 10-20% of it is actually recycled after, you know.
Yeah. And that's
I went through all that, and when really what should be happening is these types of products and packaging and whatnot should not even be made in the first place.
Yeah.
I should not have to live in guilt and shame for buying a product that's being sold to me, right?
Yeah. And that's really what I mean about like letting go of that guilt that I was carrying around.
Right.
You know, for not doing everything perfectly when like it's rigged, you know, there's no way that you can make ethical choices a lot of the time.
Right.
You know, either way there's going to be packaging, either way there's going to be people who've been exploited for a product to be made.
Yep.
And yeah, instead of carrying that guilt around, try to put accountability on the people who are manufacturing it, and on the government for having policies that allow for exploitation to happen.
For real. We have very limited choice, even though it looks like we have so much choice. It's
the joke of consumer culture.
like the clothes are even made in the same oppressive factories, and they're just like different labels are just stuck on, and people really think they're buying a different product. It's the same product.
Yeah. Or like a clothing might be made in the same company, but one of them has a designer brand name and the other doesn't.
Yeah.
So you think, well, this one must be better because it's designer, but that's
not
no reason to actually think it's better. Yeah.
Alrighty, I think I'm done my little Adhack there. I can show you guys. Turning on my camera. I'm sorry, it's come off. Right there. Okay. And this is what I did with this Adhack.
So cool. That's amazing.
Thank you. It's very inspired by your art style.
Thank you.
I love how it's just like holding.
Yeah, push-up bras were the worst invention when I was a teenage girl, so you know.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
For sure. Thank you for this workshop. This was like very fun, very informative. I find that I learned a lot, and also it gave me time to reflect on my own opinions on advertisement. I know that I personally got off social media. For the most part, I still have certain like WhatsApp because of my my family and stuff, but yeah, it's just very interesting to see how you can enjoy living without necessarily like I find that I used to take a lot of like self portraits of myself or selfies or whatever you want to call them, and I find that now I still take them, but they're not as frequent as they used to be, and it's not for the same reasons. Like I've developed my own internal feelings as to why I'm not on social media, and it's not necessarily because it's this evil thing, because realistically off my art page I got to connect with a lot of creative individuals, and I really got to do a lot of like cool collaborative stuff at times, right, that came through there. But yeah, I don't know, I just find that it's interesting because, you know, I think we've been talking about people having choices and people not having choices. And it's just such a fine line between the two, right? Like everybody's living their own experience. Everybody is their own person, right? So it's just everybody's coming from a different standpoint of view, right? So it's like that's your truth kind of thing, right? But yeah, advertisement is a propaganda, period. It's such a big thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's so key that, you know, we touch base on like the whole Nazi propaganda. But yeah, like there's like, you know, so much like things that like you're not really aware of, or things that you are aware of but you don't speak out with other individuals. So it's just cool to like be a part of bouncing ideas and even facts about things. So I appreciate you all for that. But on this note, I know I talk a lot. I do think I'm gonna head out. I do have some leftover work, but I just wanted to say thank you to all of you and hope to reconnect on something fun like this again.
Yay, thank you for coming.
Yeah,
nice to see you.
Yeah, it's awesome seeing you too. I'm sorry, I haven't been on camera much, but yeah. Alrighty, guys, have a lovely, lovely night.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
She was really nice.
Yeah. Aw. Nice to hear things like that and to think that, like, you know, I don't think I'm going to change the world with my ad paintings or with these workshops, but it's nice to hear that they have a positive impact on people.
It's about the experience of getting together.
Mm-hmm.
Even with strangers, it's like, okay, well, our common bond is our art. So that's why we're here today, right? And so yeah, we have to get our connections wherever we can, because I mean, where are you at? I forget. In Ontario?
Yeah, I'm in Toronto.
Okay. Yeah, it's just so hard to connect with anybody anymore. But this is what we have to do now.
Yeah. Again, this is like the flip side of the coin of where like the good part comes in of social media and the technology is that we're able to do this in times where we couldn't necessarily travel or, I mean, for a while see anybody in person, that we could still connect. It's obviously not the ideal situation. In a perfect world, I would be doing this in person. We would be sitting at a table together.
It's so crazy to think all the opportunities that have come up, like that social media has connected me, like us too.
Yeah.
Definitely it's the only reason that I keep. Yeah.
Yeah. So like with anything, you just have to parse the bad from the good and know where to turn a critical eye. Because I don't think we're ever going to live in a perfect world. Like if all advertisements disappeared tomorrow, that's, things aren't going to magically be fixed. So yeah, for me, it's just about finding balance and acceptance and knowing where to point my frustrations. And I hear now more that I've got a few more friends who've got kids that are getting a bit older, that they teach a lot of media awareness classes in school, which I think is so important.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I don't think I got a lot of that when I was in school, so that would be a good thing too.
Yeah, well, I think it's so.
They could even bring you.
Sorry?
They could even bring you in to do.
I've talked to teachers about doing that, actually.
Yeah, how's that gone? Do you think?
Well, this was before the pandemic.
Right.
So all of that got put on a hold. But I would love to do this and just, basically do what we're doing now, or just have a conversation. with people about it. You know, I don't want to be standing up on a pedestal and being like, listen here, children, this is what you're looking for. The internet's a dangerous place. You know, that's not what they want to hear. But if I'm like, here's a bunch of magazines, make it look like everyone is farting, then like,
I actually think like kids and youth would be like are naturally a lot more receptive to that type of interaction than to like the other kind where you're like taught something.
Yeah. Although I do wonder, with all of this starting for me, I was in grade 7 or 8 and we did have a media awareness unit. I mean, this was before the internet existed. Yeah. And so when I was looking up these propaganda techniques that we were talking about, that actually came from me remembering this unit that I did back in primary school of like, okay, I remember learning about the techniques that advertisers used on us. And we had to go through magazines and find examples of each technique as an assignment. And so I do wonder if like that's what planted the seed of my being critical of media, if it came from that, or if, you know, I forgot about it and it came later on. But
well, that's the scary thing about consciousness, though. Nothing is ever forgotten.
Yeah, true.
So I'm sure that actually did have like played a role, probably.
Yeah, which I think is kind of amazing, and then just enforces this idea that I think everyone should be taught media awareness.
Okay, I really like this one. Can I share it with you?
Please do.
Okay, I feel like they're all in like the same style, but is this big enough? Like, can you see?
What is this? A party happening around?
No, it's called toxic masculinity.
That's amazing.
It's like I added I added like a wound and like just a lot of like party.
There we go. Yeah, I've made you bigger so I can see it better. That's awesome.
Fun.
It's called what? Toxic masculinity?
Yeah.
Okay, and how is it making fun of it, of the advertisement, or like what's it called?
Yeah, because you know, like before my intervention, like it was all like black and white and it's all like just really strong and really.
What was it an ad for?
What is an ad for? Let's see. What are they selling?
Yeah, sometimes you can't even tell.
Right? It's called Body Rock. I think they're selling like a gym routine or something like that.
Yeah, so this idea of like, I want to look like that guy. Doesn't matter what they're selling.
Of how they're trying to sell sex, right? Sex sells. You're selling a product based on, look at how hot this guy is. If you buy this product, then you're going to look so hot like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what it's saying. You're going to look like this.
Yeah, and even if it's not feasible for whatever reason, like if it's selling milkshakes, if it was a milkshake ad that was selling that, like, it doesn't matter that it's not feasible because it's the emotions that, you know, you want to look like that. You want to be desired the way that model is being desired. And the rest it's like a bit incidental, really.
My first thought when I saw that picture was, can you lower it? Is there more for down below? Is there more picture below the waist?
Unfortunately.
Where's the rest of the picture?
Unfortunately, they didn't publish it.
Well, now we know who the sex selling is working on.
I guess. Right? Yeah. Tell me what they're selling. I'm going to go buy it now.
No, this whole workshop is backfired.
No, this is too funny.
Yeah, I love that. And then you look at that without it having been edited, and now you'll just be like, wait, what? But why? Why is this the image is being used? How is this being affected on me? Like, this is actually completely ridiculous.
This is so fun.
Okay, so in my case, with this though, I'm trying to figure out like how this fits into the whole advertising. So they're advertising books, right? Okay, so they're advertising books, and you think to yourself, okay, this bookseller, they're a local bookseller, you should go out and buy local. Here's what they've got to offer. Here's some Canadian authors. These are some of the different books they're selling. These are the topics. And that's, they're showing you titles, specific titles of books. So in that way, I mean, I know they're advertising selling books, but they're choosing certain titles and subject matter of books. So that in itself is the advertisement. Like, look at this. This is something that you should want to read. Like, you should want to read about the history of rain. You should want to read about, you know, Santa never brought me a banjo. You know, you should. So it's
Yeah.
like, about how this fits into the advertising thing. What's your commentary on that?
With things like that, because right off the bat, you think books, you think reading, you don't think this is a bad thing. I don't mean you specifically, I just mean like the royal you. But I think a lot about the people who make the decisions of what goes on there. I think a lot about like the authors that are being represented or the main characters. How many of them are white? How many of them are male? Are we seeing things that like represent diverse perspectives? Or are we seeing what we're so used to seeing, which is basically the white male straight perspective of like the people who create kind of the defaults of what we've come to expect in society, and that we're not getting proper representation. So even though books are great, reading is great, representation is so important. And you know, I didn't catch the titles and the authors' names, but I'm always very curious to know how diversity is being represented. I think about that a lot, even in scenarios where books are good, reading is good.
Well, how about this? Okay, so it's Christmas time. They're kind of pushing this as a gift, you know, buy a book as gifts. So the advertising is influencing a person subconsciously by saying, hey, listen, you know, use this opportunity to give the gift of knowledge or entertainment or education. But a lot of people, books are expensive, new books. But this advertisement is saying, hey, listen, these are the new books. These are our nice new Canadian authors. You should go and buy these books. So you know what? To go out and buy a $30 book is something that I would not do. But depending on the effectiveness of this advertisement, right? Like what other ways that they're trying to lure me into that bookstore, right? That would influence me. So I can't remember what other information was on this advertisement because I just cut out these, you know, book covers.
Yeah. Well, that also really brings in this idea of ownership and what it means to own something and why we need to own so many books. And it doesn't even have to be books, but like we have libraries, we have a system that exists so we can read all of these books and we don't have to be accumulating, we don't have to be spending money on every single one. And I think about that a lot with other objects that we're sort of taught we need to have our own blank. Like I've personally never owned a car. I've always lived in downtown Toronto. Not always, but as an adult, I always have. And part of that is because I don't need a car to live here. And now we have all these car sharing services that exist. And I think that's amazing because why do we all need to own a car? Why do we all need to own a washing machine? Why do we all need to own, you know, things that you don't use very often? Like when I grew up in suburbia and it was like, well, why does every house need to own its own lawnmower? Why can't we just have like some shared lawnmowers that everybody gets to use instead of every single household having to own it? And I think that kind of relates to the book conversation as well, where like, I like owning books, but I don't want to own every book I've ever read.
That's it. Oh my God. Okay, that's it. So they're trying to sell you a book because authors are writing books. Authors are trying to make a living, right? They can't make as much money off of a Kindle, you know, download and whatnot. They want to sell you a hard, a paper book. But at the same time, you're spending $20 or $30 for a day or two to sit down and read this book.
Mhm.
And yes, you own it now. Big deal. You can go and get it for free at the library. So it's like,
Yeah.
again, this is a complete advertisement saying, listen, are you willing to invest in an author's livelihood, basically, right? And a bookstore.
Yeah, and I get certainly wanting to support artists and writers. I mean, I'm an artist. I want people to buy my artwork, but also I want people to be able to enjoy my artwork, even if they can't buy it or don't want to buy it or have walls that are already full of artwork, you know? I think that there's so many other ways to appreciate these things that don't involve having to, you know, go out and collect them all.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, I don't understand how people just go out and buy tons of new books all the time. I mean, maybe they have that kind of money, they can do it, and good for that. Good, you know, but
yeah, I'll if there's a book I get from the library and I'm absolutely in love with it and I know I want to read it again, that's when I'll buy a book. Or if it's an author who I absolutely adore and I actively want to support them, those are the times that I'll usually buy books. But otherwise, I'm an avid user of the library.
And used bookstores, like a lot of the books that I buy for my artwork come from, I buy them from the library book sale, right? Or from the used bookstore.
Yeah. Well, all of my magazines that I use for my art, they're all from the side of the road. They're all from other people getting rid of them. I've never spent money on a magazine that I would make art out of because it's, you know, it's already there for me for free. I just have to walk around and look for it.
Right, right. Yeah, I do that too. I don't spend too much money on art supplies. Okay, well, I'm going to go now too because I think I've done enough of this for now.
Well, thank you so much for joining and being part of this conversation.
Yeah, you know what? And not everybody is going to agree on the same things. And sometimes when people comment about their thoughts or ideas, it doesn't mean that that's their die-hard, you know, statement on a subject matter. It's just like that thought came in your mind and then you say it. And then it's like everybody has their opinion or feedback or their you know, their thoughts about the situation. Again, it's all about perspective, how much money somebody has to spend or not, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, well, it's so interesting, and that's why I love these conversations, is like getting people's perspectives and touching base with things. And, you know, I don't ever want to come on and be like, buying anything is bad all the time and you should feel guilty. Like, I mean, this is my own thing, but I find a lot of artwork that's very dogmatic about having opinions on things tends to alienate people because they're just like, oh, well, I enjoy participating in this. Sure, that like all of us enjoy buying certain things and not necessarily for our heartfelt reasons. And I think that also has to be okay because there's this whole gray area here, but I love talking about it and just like getting perspectives from other people and maybe giving some new perspectives for people to think about.
Yeah, because it's all about realizing stuff. Right? It's all about self-realization. Okay. Take care, Stephanie. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Good night. I'm also gonna head out. Gonna go take my puppy for a walk.
Oh.
But it was so great.
Yeah, it's awesome having you here.
Yeah, thank you. And I followed you on Insta, so I'll post one of them and tag you in it too.
Yeah, that would make me so happy.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Enjoy your walk.
Thanks. Bye.
Ron, are you still in here with us? Or are you off at your other event?
I'm mostly here.
Good, excellent. Well, keep doing what you're doing. I just wanted to check in.
Yep. No, I'm cutting and gluing mostly.
Ooh, very nice.
Let's see here. Have to try something here. Let me know if I sound louder here. Or do I sound louder now?
I think the first one was a bit louder.
I'll show you what I'm doing.
Please.
But I really love the discussion about consumer culture, advertising, media.
Yeah, I think it's such an important conversation to have, and I think a lot of this stuff is stuff that people really tend to take for granted. Even if they don't like it, it's just such a part of our existence.
But yeah, it's so pervasive and so powerful that it's good to really reflect on that regularly. The art making experience is a nice way to come together to have these conversations. It reminds me, I don't know, have you ever been to next year in Toronto, have you ever been to the Arcturus gallery?
Which gallery?
It's on Arcturus, Arcturus. It's on Dundas, I think, east of Young, sort of around Ryerson, maybe Dundas and Church or something. Anyway,
okay, is it still there?
Yeah, it's in like a house form space.
Okay.
What the person who's sort of artist in residence there, named Deborah Harris, she runs once a month collage Saturday afternoon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so she's got like boxes and boxes of really exotic magazines, and I think they can fit about 10 people, 10 or 12 at the most. You have to sign up, it usually fills up, and you just go there for 3 hours, like 1 to 4. The experience is much like here.
Huh.
The conversation isn't as rich as yours because it's a lot of people just doing a collage. Like there's not much talking normally. It's just a making experience. But in terms of cutting, pasting, gluing, flipping through magazines, just tonight reminds me of a little that aspect of Swiss collage workshop.
Yeah, that actually sounds like something I would really enjoy doing. Even if we don't get into this.
You should go once and see what it's like, and then.
Yeah. So you said Deborah Harris? Is that what you said her name was?
Yep, Deborah Harris. Yeah.
And I have all these things to look up after this is over because I can't really look anything up right now.